Hello everybody, welcome back to another Doomer update. It's been about a month since I've put out one of these updates. Wanted to do one a little bit sooner, but I had dental surgery, had a tooth pulled about a week ago, and I wasn't able to comfortably talk and articulate what I wanted to say as well. So what better place to start with the fact that today is the 23rd of July, and from the 3rd of July to the 22nd, we've broken the record for hottest global average temperature. Now, the previous record was set on July 24th of last year, 2022, which is 16.924 degrees Celsius as a global average temperature. And I thought that was very striking because it was set in what was supposed to be an ENSO neutral year. And now we have an El Nino year kicking in, not fully realized, and already we're seeing some brutal heat from it. So let's dive in. Here I have Earth Null School. We'll first look at the sea surface temperatures. A lot of really hot water in the Gulf. You can see 31 degrees here Celsius, 32.2. And somewhere around 27, I believe, is the benchmark. 26 degrees Celsius is the benchmark for hurricane fuel, as they say. And that's kind of partially the reason why there's a storm still brewing called Don out here somewhere, which we can see right there. So the interesting thing, there's a lot of sea surface temperature anomalies, about 4 degrees Celsius, certain places, and that's 7 degrees Fahrenheit, and that means it's that many degrees warmer than it's supposed to be at that present time. You have the very strong El Nino already forming here. I've seen some reports that this one's not supposed to be a super El Nino like 2016, or not as strong as 19, but we're seeing the heat, so not really sure what to make of that. A lot of hot anomalies here. The main hot spot is right here, 7.5. This is where we're seeing that record North Atlantic heat. I want to call it a North Atlantic heat blob. 13.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And usually, I see there's a lot of cold anomalies here. Turn the camera a little bit. Got -2 degrees Celsius, about that. And that has a lot to do with the ice that's melting, because these cold anomalies usually show up through the Baffin Bay, and this is the Davis Strait, if I'm not mistaken, and flow out this way southward. So this is usually supposed to be cold anomalies, and here it is in hot water. And I see the same thing in Climate Reanalyzer. Look at that heat blob. The whole thing's warm, but the heat blob is it's like reddish, whitish pink. Same anomalies in the Hudson Bay, and a little bit in the Great Lakes, which we'll get to the Hudson Bay shortly. So we're in the summer of Canadian wildfire as well. I just read an article that talked to some Canadian fire experts, from different regions, and some of these fires are normal. It's normal to have isolated fires burn out because in a country, the second largest country on Earth, the resources are spread very thin, so they need to protect residential and commercial areas and places where people and livestock are living. So that's where they prioritize. They let the more wildfires burn out naturally. But it's really a first to have this, where these fires are burning all the way through the country of Canada from east to west. That's not really something fire experts in the country and in our country, United States, are used to seeing. Here we have, this is of yesterday, 22nd, 1,033 active fires. 4,500 have already burned this year, and it's still July, and 11.4 hectares, which 10 million hectares is 25 million acres. So 11.4 would be somewhere around 28 million acres. Already broken the record, and it's, again, we're still in July. This is the first month of summer. This is the first month of climate acceleration summers. And we're seeing it here, with El Nino just now arriving. And speaking of the smoke and the particulates, I was looking at that as well. So you have particulates on Knoll School. This is where a lot of the fires are burning in the west. Kind of mirrors this shape pattern. And those fires are relatively new for the territories, Northwest and Yukon territories of Canada and parts of Alaska. And here you have on the other side in Siberia, I believe this is the Sakha Republic, where they declared a state of emergency due to wildfires. So we don't have as much information on that side, but we can see from Knoll School the particulates. And the other thing we can note is they're not really in the Arctic, so this is just kind of, just completely open. It's not really, what's the word? It's just exposed to. There's no real masking from these fires in the Arctic as of yet, according to Knoll School. So let's check on one of my favorite sites, HiCom. So the scale, really quickly, I'll look over here. You have 5 meters up at the top, 1 meter down to the bottom of thickness. And then when you check the ice, first thing I can see, Hudson Bay is ice-free. And we're still in July. Top of Newfoundland and Labrador, top of Quebec, ice-free. So the Baffin Bay is rapidly losing ice, even though that's usually where ice is supposed to be flowing out. Edges of Greenland rapidly losing ice. And then when you move over here, Chukchi Sea is rapidly losing ice. Also rapidly losing thickness. Over here on the east side of Greenland by the Fram Strait, we're rapidly losing ice. In the Barents Sea. See, I still can't talk all the way with this tooth being pulled. Even drinking water and all that stuff. Barents Sea, virtually ice-free already. And the Kara Sea, it has this land barrier of Novaya Zemlya, but it's still getting melt from these rivers that are hot flowing in with all of that Siberian heat, because in the Arctic Circle it's been 90 plus degrees, 30 something degrees Celsius already, and this hot water is flowing in here. It's flowing in from the air, from underneath. And I want to shout out Jim Ass's channel for his interesting work showing and educating me personally on how the North Atlantic water flows up this way, counterclockwise. You can kind of observe that almost in the way the ice melts. And he also taught me about the Beaufort Gyre, which is right here. And you can kind of see this spinning motion of the ice kind of thinning out with the warm water spinning in the Beaufort Gyre. It's flowing in from the Pacific. It's also flowing in counterclockwise from the Atlantic, getting picked up by the strong Beaufort Gyre. And that Beaufort Gyre is kind of spinning out the way, like a hurricane would, and cutting through some of this thicker ice. So let me try to zoom here. Because I'm noticing a lot of these kind of holes popping up, and as HiCom updates, this might go away, but these kind of pockmark holes. And so, hoping that's just not methane or any pingos from the melting permafrost, because there's open water here and here. And over in this area. And I'll show you on the JAXA as well next. But you can see over here this very thick ice This is, you know, as I said before, the last bastion. There's kind of 3 pillars here. This one's virtually gone and broken up. This second one is sliding west through the Queen Elizabeth Islands in Canada, where ice filters out to go, you know, to melt, to go to die, basically. And the last part of Greenland is just barely hanging on here. So we have this kind of mass. And just for reference, this is a, oh, sorry, that's JAXA. This is 2018's thickness. So you can see the same kind of thing happening here and here, but relatively more meter thick ice in this area than what we're seeing now. That was from, what date was that? The 21st of July, and this is through the 27th or 8th. So a couple days later, and way less thickness, in my opinion. So last but not least, the JAXA, and they have their own monitor view of the ice, which I'll look at quickly. See what I mean about this peripheral edge ice thinning and melting? That's not looking really good here and here. This is all open water. A lot of these shallow shelves, 100, 200 meters deep, have frozen permafrost. It's rapidly melting and could be releasing methane. We're not seeing it yet, but it could be very likely in the next month or two that we'll really be seeing methane charts increase. As far as extent, a lot of people have said, and I don't deny or confirm any of that, that, you know, we're only going to have 5 to 4 million kilometers this year. Right now we're at 7.39 according to JAXA. Climate Reanalyzer has their own markings. That's about 7.6 or 7.9, I think, currently. So I'm going to stick with JAXA. Here I have the most recent ice chart I did, which I'll kind of zoom out real quick. And so we've had that 150 decline and 110 decline here, and then 120 and 110. So those are the kind of more bigger numbers. And those are the kind of numbers that, if we had them steadily, could really lead to an ice-free Arctic this or next year. Because if we miss it this year, that's really great, you know, in my opinion, for humanity, but we could have a very warm, anomalous fall and winter where the ice does not refreeze and it just sets up an ice-free Arctic next year, which has some pretty immediate, dire consequences. So looking at this compared to 2012, we're not too far off in trajectory, which can be, you know, it's pretty alarming. But really quick, I'll go through all of the years really fast, because I think this particular data is interesting, and I trust JAXA's. It's like, when you look at 20 years ago, this ice is so far away. It's not even close. You really got to get to 2007 to see a year that's under this year presently. 8, 9, 10. 10 we just actually clipped under. So, and then when you look at this trajectory, if we have all of that heating, like I just mentioned, through HICOM and that thickness vanishing, it's going to cleave through some of these years very soon. So 2007 we're still under, 11 we're still under, 12 obviously, but not by much. This is where 12 really takes away and starts becoming the lowest. But as you can see, we're like right above it. It's really not that far. A couple 100,000 kilometers, which is a few days of melt. 13 we're rapidly approaching, cutting through. I believe 14 we're just, 14 I think we're really gonna, I think by the time the ice data updates for tonight, we'll cut through this, because this is only 60K right here, if I'm not mistaken, or 30, sorry. And the gap, I believe, is 60K. So if we get 70,000 decline tonight, we'll be under 14. And that's just the kind of updates I look at with this extent data, as we're, you know, day by day, inching closer to something. I mean, right now we're at like 12th lowest, but that could really change quickly depending on how thin the ice is. Like this real thin ice doesn't take a lot to melt very quickly. So once it's thin like that, we could start seeing these big. Already this year we've had 150,000 decline a couple days ago, and I haven't seen one of those in a few years. So not saying we're gonna have an ice-free Arctic this year, but I think we could keep an eye out for a new record low, absolutely. And how low it gets is vital to a lot of different things, you know, the crop failures that are continuing, the droughts that are continuing, rain bombs, 7 inches of rain in certain places or more that are continuing. So this is the longest update I think I've ever done. So please subscribe to the channel if you think this information is worth sharing and share out to people. And yeah, things are bad. Don't think they're gonna get better. So I'm gonna try to do a little more diligence with the updates, but that never works because every single day and every single hour there's more climate headlines, there's more disasters, there's more to keep up with, and it seems I've just been lagging behind. So until next time, talk soon everybody. Thank you for checking this out. I really appreciate your time. Have a great day.